Hey guys, Laziest here, and today I am back for day number 6 of r/ProRevenge, where today I have 3 stories lined up, and honestly, I don't know what else to say, so let's just get into this madness. Was bored at work, so got a guy fired and possibly sent to prison for fraud. Just your casual Saturday night. I worked the night shift as a receptionist at a hotel in Norway, and most nights are spent watching Netflix/playing games. Last summer I was really slow, and I also worked a lot extra, so I ran out of stuff to watch and games to play. One night I got a mail from Scooter. He wanted to book a room for almost 20 days. I just had to send him the price and confirmation that we had rooms available, and he would send me his credit card info for me to pre-charge. Normally we just delete these kinds of mail, but I was bored out of my mind, so I responded with an offer for around $2,000 for the entire stay. Also made sure to inform him that he could cancel for free up until the day of arrival. This is probably the most common fraud attempt in the hotel/travel industry. Unlike most businesses, we are able to charge credit or debit cards with only the card number and expiration date. No need for PIN codes, CVC, or other authorization methods. Our software also allows us to deposit money directly to local and international bank accounts by using the card number. Because of this, shitheads like Scooter will try to prepay with stolen or skimmed cards, but then cancel the booking and ask us to refund the amount to a different card. A couple of hours after sending him the offer, he responded with a Visa number and told me to charge him as soon as possible. I checked the card with our validation software, and to my big surprise, it did not belong to Scooter. If validation succeeds, it will return with the card owner's name 90% of the time. I sent in a new mail stating that the card was declined because of insufficient funds. He quickly replied and gave me a new card to try. Guess what? This one didn't belong to Scooter either. Was it even the same person as the first card? By checking the BIN codes, the first 6 digits, I found which banks had issued the cards. Not even issued in the same country. My plan was to just call the banks and inform them of the attempted scam, but there were still several hours before I could go home, so I decided to fuck with Scooter a bit more. Sent him a reply saying that the second card went through, and also the reference number for his stay at our hotel. As expected, a couple hours later, Scooter sent a mail cancelling the order and asked if we could refund the money to a different card, as he had lost his wallet and deactivated the card he paid with. This card was issued from a Polish bank. Not sure why, but Polish bank accounts are often used by people who want to launder money from bitcoins and drugs. You can buy a legit card for around $500 that is registered to some guy or girl in Poland from Darknet. I don't know why you know that. Probably wise to know that stuff for your business. At this point, Scooter was probably pretty happy about the $2,000 he would soon receive. I replied that it was no problem for me to transfer the money to a different card as long as it was valid. How fun would it be to also cancel his own card so that he would have to spend $500 for a new one? Not fun enough. In the last mail, I wrote that he could send me the card number, but the email server would go down for maintenance in a few minutes, so my boss would do it on Monday. It was now Saturday morning, so enough time for the charge bank to call us and reverse the transfer. If he needed the money right away, I told him to call the hotel before I ended my shift at 7. He called almost immediately, and I wrote down the card number and his phone number. told him I transferred the money and that it would be in his account by 12. My shift ended and I went home with all the info Scooter had provided. Wanted to see if I could find out who he was. And of course, this idiot had an open Facebook profile that I found using his phone number. He even listed his address and employer. Looked a bit like the artist Scooter, but with even more fucked up face and spiky hair full of gel. He lives somewhere outside of London, in an area I would describe as a British trailer park. Houses that were nice at some point, but where the owners had spent £0 or €0 on maintenance since it was built. Trash everywhere and broken windows that were boarded up or fixed by sealing holes with garbage. Now to the fun part. According to his Facebook profile, Scooter worked at a hotel. This meant that he would have to access card information from guests that book through sites like Booking.com. I called the manager of the hotel and told him there was reason to believe that one of his employees was trying to commit credit card fraud, and that the card's numbers could belong to their guests. Gave him the name of the people who owned the cards Scooter tried to pay with, and to no surprise, both had stayed at the hotel. Told him it was Scooter, and the manager just exploded in anger. Not 100% sure what he said, but because he was screaming so loud, but I think Scooter wasn't a normal employee. He worked there through some kind of government training program or something. After talking to the manager, I called both Visa and MasterCard International and told them about Scooter's little business venture. Apparently, it's pretty easy to check if there are more cards that have been involved in fraud, where the cards have been used at Hotel Scooter. With his Polish deposit account info, they would be able to pin it on Scooter if he had been successful in scamming anyone and sue him for the amount stolen. The police also called me later to get a statement regarding the whole situation, so I know that the manager reported it to the police. Not sure what happened to Scooter, but according to his Facebook profile, he no longer works at the hotel, or anywhere else as far as I can see. You just gotta love it when you try to scam another hotel while working at a hotel, and then you lose your job. The chances of that happening is 1 to 1. Oh my gosh. But you did the right thing. You got someone fired for pulling a scam and possibly sent to jail. Uncle bankrupts his previous employer. Not sure if this is petty or pro or whatever. You be the judge. My uncle is an Indian doctor. In the 90s, there was a massive doctor shortage in Australia, so the government gave him citizenship. Unfortunately, he still had to sit 3 expensive exams to work as a doctor in Australia. These exams cost thousands of dollars, only happened twice a year, had limited sitting spots / times, and had arbitrary pass/fail marks. So many Indian doctors ended up becoming taxi drivers, small businessmen, etc. My uncle decided instead he would reapply and go through Australian medical school. Sure enough, being a doctor for 10 plus years makes medical school easy, and my uncle was top of his class. He decided, since he was already pushing 40 plus, he had a family, he would apply to become a GP, family physician, instead of applying to be a surgeon like most of his teachers had suggested. At the time, many desperate foreign doctors were applying for GP residency. They would essentially get treated like crap. They would be forced to work unpaid overtime. They would not be given proper study time or leave to sit mandatory exams. They would pocket the meals, accommodation, study, leave allowances that you were supposed to be paid by the training college. They would roster you to work every Saturday, Sunday shift, and if you refused, they would give you a bad review and your training would be jeopardized. This mostly happened to foreign doctors, as most of them would be in bad debt and highly desperate for any sort of work. When my uncle graduated, he applied for GP training in a practice that is located within an Indian Aphrodite enclave, so that he would have access to religious food / schools, etc. for the kids. Sure enough, this practice engaged in all of the above fuckery. My uncle would work every single Saturday shift. During his dedicated study time, he would have to come into work. He got reprimanded for not overcharging patients in line with their framework. Worst of all, when my aunt was really sick and hospitalized, they wouldn't give him any time off to look after her and the kids. The owner of the clinic was a white GP who was openly racist against Indians, Asians, and Aboriginal people, who are a large percentage of the clientele of this clinic. My uncle bided his 3 years, and as soon as his documentation came through, making him a GP, he quit that instant. He went down to the local bank and got a loan to open up his own practice. All his old patients quickly moved with him to the new practice. The first year he struggled, but his practice quickly became known and word spread. Surprise, surprise! Foreign trained doctors actually work well and care about their patients if you actually care about them and give them appropriate wages, living conditions. More patients and more doctors looked to work with my uncle. Within 2 years, my uncle had a GP practice that had 4 doctors, 2 nurses, 2 trainees, and a manager. His practice easily rivaled his original teachers. He then started 2 more GP practices with the money he was pulling in. These practices trapped his old teacher's clinic in a 2-kilometer triangle. He would advertise heavily and make sure he could take as much business from his old teacher as he could. Within 5 years, his old teacher's practice went from hiring 6 doctors, 4 nurses, and 6 trainees to just 1 doctor, his old teacher, and no one else. His old teacher tried to sell up his practice to other doctors, but no one would purchase it, given how successful my uncle's 3 surrounding practices were. He then tried to sell it to my uncle, who refused to buy even at a ridiculously low sale price. Instead, he waited for the bank to repossess his old teacher's clinic, and then purchased it for a bit more money from the bank. My uncle then repurposed the building into his main offices, from where he runs his other 3 practices. He made sure to redevelop his old boss's room into a staff toilet, just as that one file tribute to the human turd that was his old boss. Nice. I love. Just turn the boss's office into the public shitting room. Into the staff shits. It would be better if it was just the public restroom and then everyone would be taking a crap on this old boss. EK chop cemetery, and it costs €500,000, $700,000. It's been 2 years and I can finally post about this. This is juicy, so get ready. Background information. We live in an old and big manor that has been split into 3 attached houses. The houses are about 150 years old and were built around 5 huge giant sequiturs, which were about 200 years old. In the UK, giant sequiturs are very rare, and the 2 in our garden up the house price by about 60,000 euro. I don't know why I was saying 600,000. We live next to 2 really nice neighbours and 1 young couple, and one old couple. The story. Unfortunately, our old neighbours passed away, so their child and her family moved in. Let's call her Jo. Jo was instantly a pain in the ass. We had been sharing chickens with the previous owners, and Jo agreed to keep sharing them. However, on her nights, she would constantly forget to put them away, so we have to check them every night. Anyway. One night, her little brats thought it would be funny to open a personal duck pen in the night, which leads to a mass slaughter later. The chickens went the same way. Oh, really? About 2 years ago, there was a storm, and one of her secretors somehow fell over and died. They were distraught, understandably, but from then on, the jealousy started. She would constantly complain about how lucky we were to have 2 secretors in our garden, and how our secretary was making too much shade in their garden. It wasn't. Anyway, we just thought it was just Jo being a pain. There were a few dry threats, like they will chop it down, or maybe the next storm will blow it down. Until we came back from a holiday to France to find a huge 6-meter stump and nothing else. I mean, how the fuck did you get rid of a 100-foot tree in like 2 weeks? 2 of our old British oaks had been crushed as well. My mum and sisters were crying. My dad was red in the face, and we had no evidence Jo had done it. She claimed that there had been a storm and she had to get rid of it. We had a security camera at the front of the house, but you can get in the back if you go through a few fields. We then were given an €8,000 bill for damages to our property, and to have the tree chopped up and removed the wood alone would have been worth a small fortune. We had lost all hope, and 2 weeks had passed when my dad came running in from the garden. We had put up a wildlife camera a few months ago and had caught everything. We got a lawyer on the phone and started our revenge. We got a tree surgeon out who said it was an original specimen brought into the UK in 1860, along with the 2 that were in Alvaston Castle Country Park. There were 218 around the UK, but only 60 now. He also told us to call out an engineer because the roots might be in the foundation, so when they rot, it could damage the house. Turns out we would need to redo the foundations. We then took Jo to court and sued them for damage to property, trespassing, and lots of other smaller claims. The tree would cost $250,000 to have another sequitur that was 200 years put in and looked after. It's basically impossible. Plus the damage to the foundation, which was $200,000, and the 2 oaks, which were another $25,000. So with the smaller claims, it went to about €500,000 and $700,000. They had to move out. and we have now paid off the mortgage. Done a lovely loft and kitchen conversion, and we basically done up the house and garden, as well as planted a 60-year-old sequoia tree in the back garden. We also had a kitchen counter and table made from the old sequoia. We now have a new lovely family living next to us, who we share chickens, ducks, and pygmy goats with. They are very nice, and I make a small fortune babysitting their kids. Sorry for the essay. Well, your essay could use a lot of work. There was a common thing across this story today. I was seeing a lot of mistakes with the where and was for some reason. TLDR, new neighbours chopped down the original sequoia specimen that's 200 years old and is of the same tree as all to ones in every single place of note in the UK. Ends up costing them $700,000. I'm working on the spec, but I'm just like, oh. Okay. I am gonna back off on saying anything rude now, because I was not aware that OP was dyslexic. I mean, you'd got most of it right. Like, most of your words were right, except for a few here and there. And that's just like common spelling mistakes if you're working on a phone. So I'm not gonna be annoyed by that. What I am going to do is I'm going to end the episode here. Links will be in the description to my main channel and also the second channel that you're on right now that has links to the playlist and the last episode. Go check them all out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. Ding, ding. I'm Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist out.